Hello, everybody. Uh, I don't even know why I'm here. Uh, I'm not usually one of those strike while the iron is hot kind of guys. I am usually scripted. I usually like to have time to process things and analyze them. But this has already been a crazy, crazy day. A really crappy day in real life, and while I'm busy trying to process all the information I've received in my real life, I come home from work, I sit down at my computer, and all of a sudden, oh, by the way, there's a new Dragon Ball television series coming out. And it's like, what do you do with that? What do you... So I feel like both in order to get away from the craziness of my real life and just try to be able to talk through something and process something, I have to talk about this. I have to talk about this. And where do I even start? Honestly, I keep on checking the date to make sure it's not still April 1st. It's still April. It's still April. It is still April. But no, it's not April 1st. And I feel like I've been in that situation so many times. I remember when Battle of Gods came out, that there was that meme going around of there's going to be a new Dragon Ball television series. There are 200 episodes planned, and there's the meme of the guy like ripping his clothes off and like running down the hall. And for the past 2 years, I've had people come to me and go, hey, there's a new Dragon Ball TV. No, there's not. There's not. There's not. I'm sorry. Hate to be the guy to go around and burst your bubble, but there's not. It's not happening. So I am still kind of in this surreal world where my first thought is to say no, this is not right, but it's on Kanzenshuu. It is, and if you follow my Dragon Ball videos at all, I credit them for all. If they say something's true, I pretty much believe it. It's not like the crazy dregs of the internet where they know what they're talking about. They've even updated their forums with a new subsection above Dragon Ball Kai to talk about this. So either I'm in the middle of the biggest practical joke I've ever heard of, and again, it's April 28th, isn't it? But I mean, there's a press release, an actual press. I'm gonna go ahead and read this. This is translated by Kanzenshuu. Toei Animation begins production on Dragon Ball Super. That's the name, Dragon Ball Super. Drawn from a plot by the brand's original creator, Dragon Ball Super is the first new series in 18 years. Tokyo, April 28th, I was right, 2015. Toei Animation has announced production on Dragon Ball Super, Japanese title tentative for English release, the first all-new Dragon Ball television series to be released in 18 years. Following the recent events of the hit feature film Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F, Dragon Ball Super will debut in Japan in July 2015. Reuniting the franchise's iconic characters, Dragon Ball Super will follow the aftermath of Goku's fierce battle with Majin Buu as he attempts to maintain Earth's fragile peace. Overseen by Dragon Ball's original creator, Akira Toriyama, and produced with Fuji Television, Dragon Ball Super will draw on its historic past to create a bold, new universe welcoming to fans and endearing to new viewers. Introduced as a manga and weekly shonen jump published from Shueisha Inc. in 1984, Dragon Ball has evolved into a globally beloved brand. Seen in more than 70 countries with over 230 million copies of its comic books sold, Dragon Ball remains one of the most popular anime series of all time. Having loved Dragon Ball since childhood, it is very exciting to be a part of this project, said Osamu Nozaki, producer for Fuji Television. Mr. Toriyama has developed a plot that's not only a dream come true for Dragon Ball's millions of fans, but one that will foster in a new generation of viewers. When I joined Toei Animation, one of my first assignments saw me working on the production of Dragon Ball Z, said Atsushi Kido, producer for Toei Animation. While there for only a short period of time, being a part of the series left a lasting impression. We look forward to carrying on Dragon Ball's tremendous legacy, bringing audiences a brand new Dragon Ball with the same sense of heart and commitment that went into past Dragon Ball productions. I've used the word Cho, Super, in so many commercials, games, and other media. It is fantastic that the long-awaited Dragon Ball Super will finally begin, said Masako Nozawa, a Japanese voice actress of Dragon Ball Son Goku, Son Gohan, and Son Goten. I hope that this series will last a long time and have the same impact around the world as its predecessor. Alright. If you want to read the press release yourself, obviously go to www.kanzenshuu.com, KANZENSHUU.com. And, thoughts. Okay, I'm not gonna be the guy in the meme who's tearing off my clothes and running around screaming happiness. I'm still kind of stunned. I still kind of have to process this. But I don't want to be anybody's buzzkill, but I've always been the kind of person who, when a franchise ends, you better have a really, really good reason for bringing it back. I don't see the need to keep things going forever and ever and ever, especially in a case like Dragon Ball where it is serialized and, you know, there's time moves, characters age, things, and especially in this case, things get stronger, people get stronger, the conflicts have to escalate, and it's like, where do you really go from here? I mean, we had Dragon Ball GT, and we all saw how well that turned out. And so far I've been impressed with the spattering of new material we've gotten in the past several years. The Jump Super Anime Tour special, Yo, Son Goku and his friends return. I loved that. I saw Battle of the Gods in theaters this past summer, and I really enjoyed it. I haven't seen Fukatsuna F, Resurrection F yet, the newest movie. But I've always been sort of satisfied of these kinds of things, you know, it's the sort of small windows back in. I've enjoyed the concepts from it, so I'm not going to, you know, poo-poo on everything and say, this is going to be terrible, I hate this, I'm going to just completely reject this, and, you know, canon and anger and blah. So I've liked where it's been going so far. Again, aside from Resurrection F, which I haven't seen, and therefore can't really comment on. I've been trying to avoid spoilers with that. But it does make me kind of hesitant in regards to an actual new series. And this, as I said, it's going to take over, supposedly going to take over the time slot for Dragon Ball Kai once Dragon Ball Kai comes to its end, in case you weren't aware. You know, Dragon Ball Kai, the re-edited Dragon Ball Z, you know, aired in Japan from 2009 to 2011, then came back to do the Majin Buu arc this time last year, has been going on for the past year in Japan. Those new episodes have not come out to America yet, so it's, you know, possible you might not know that the series is continuing to air right now. But once it ends, and they were getting close to the end because it has been a year, supposedly Dragon Ball Super will be replacing it. And it's something I brought up, I think, in some of the videos that I've done with Black and Fist, is that I think I've mentioned the point that in between the defeat of Majin Buu and the end of the series, there's a 10-year gap of peace. Supposedly, that's what they said. That the world's been peaceful for 10 years. But now you have, again, the JSAT, Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, and presumably this new series is going to take place there as well. And it's like, wow, you think this is the busiest time period in all of Dragon Ball. This 10 years of peace, there sure is a lot of stuff going on here. So it makes you wonder, what can you do with this at this point? How much content can you cram into this? Are they going to go past the end of the Dragon Ball manga like Dragon Ball GT did? So that's more what I want to talk about, was what implications can we sort of speculate as to what this is going to mean for the Dragon Ball franchise. It's pretty much a safe bet at this point that the Dragon Ball GT is sort of off the table at this point. I think we've all sort of come to accept that, if we even cared in the first place. That the new movies, you know, weren't going to be... I mean, obviously the new movies have taken place before when Dragon Ball GT would anyway. But the more things, the more concepts, you know, the Super Saiyan God, what have you, that come into that seem to invalidate things that happened in GT. And that really wasn't a surprise, because this is, you know, Toriyama's continuation, not Toei's, although, I mean, granted, it's Toei's as well. It gets confusing if you don't really follow the Dragon Ball GT was its own separate series made by Toei Animation, while these new movies have sort of had more Toriyama's direct involvement, whereas they're, you know, to his own Dragon Ball manga series. So it seems like either they're going to have to just completely cram this 10-year period of stuff in there, or they're going to have to move past at some point and continue on past that era. So that, you know, again, I think it seems likely that Dragon Ball GT is not going to be much of a concern, and I'm okay with that. It does make me wonder, what about the actual ending of Dragon Ball? Ignoring GT, but what about after the 10-year gap, those last few chapters, where you have the 28th Tenkaichi Budokai and Goku flying off with Oob? What's going to happen with that? I've heard people discussing that just in the context of Resurrection F, if Toriyama was going to be disregarding stuff like this. But now in the context of a new series, it's hard to... Again, we don't really know enough about this series at this point to say one way or the other, but it's like the more stuff they put in there, the harder it is to take that ending. You probably, I mean, you can if you work hard enough, I guess, but it's like, I would certainly not be surprised if that would be in question at this point, if this would be something you have to sort of ignore. But when you look at those things in context with each other, I mean, the ending already got redrawn by Toriyama for the Kanzenban release about, you know, a little over 10 years ago, and changed some things around there. So we have the original ending from the original version of the manga, which was, you know, mostly duplicated for the TV Dragon Ball Z ending, and then you have the Kanzenban ending, which is a slightly modified version of that, and then now it seems like that might be ignored too. Or there's a possibility. There's no information. I'm not, you know, this is just me speculating. Then you have all of the new stuff that has come since then. And, you know, I mentioned the, you know, Yo, Son Goku and his friends return, Battle of Gods, Resurrection F. That's not even getting into the Jocko stuff, Jocko the Galactic Patrolman, in case you aren't aware. It was a manga series that Toriyama put out a couple of years ago that was a prequel to Dragon Ball. Jocko himself shows up in Resurrection F. That much I do know. So obviously this is connecting. Jocko, in case you didn't know, being a prequel, it takes place not long before the events of Dragon Ball. Jocko has come as a galactic patrolman who has come to Earth in order to stop the baby Son Goku from arriving, sensing him as a threat, and ultimately fails to do so in a very humorous fashion. And I'm not sure what his role in Resurrection F is, but because again I haven't seen it, but he is in there. But also importantly is that if you bought the collected edition of Jocko the Galactic Patrolman, because, you know, it aired, I mean, it was originally printed in chapters of Weekly Shonen Jump, one chapter at a time. If you got the collected edition, it came with a bonus chapter called Dragon Ball Minus, which, if you've seen the videos I've done on Black and Fist channel, I didn't like it. I have large amounts of hatred for it, and because it's a poor story, I thought, the blatant levels of fan service, not necessarily the fact that it rewrote the character of Bardock, Goku's father, to a very different type of character than he was in the TV special in which he originated. But the fact that he was rewritten into pretty much no character at all. It introduced Goku's mother, Gine, and it also specifically mentioned Super Saiyan God by name as something that Frieza was afraid of. And I remember that moment in particular, me thinking, oh god, does that mean this is going to be referenced in Resurrection F? Because I didn't use the title because at the time it didn't have one. But I knew a new movie was coming out, and like, I hate Dragon Ball Minus, and I really didn't want to see it come back to any other thing. And again, I don't know how it does shape in Resurrection F, but with all this new content and now a new series, is Goku's mother going to make an appearance? Are all the new things introduced in Dragon Ball Minus, was that a setup for things going to be happening possibly in the new movie, and then especially in this new series? I have a sneaking suspicion those elements are going to be used, otherwise why even hint at those kinds of things prior to this? And it does make me a little bit apprehensive But I mean, there are certainly a lot of things to speculate about right now. So whether or not you've been keeping up with all this stuff up until now, or if you've followed Dragon Ball Dissection, my series Dragon Ball Dissection, if this is the first time that you've come here, I do a Dragon Ball analysis series called Dragon Ball Dissection. I've been doing it for the past 3 years. I've gotten up through the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai arc at this point, and I already have had to face the issue that I probably have several more years to go before I get to the end of the series. And that's not even counting all the movies I have to do and Dragon Ball GT, and now there's a new series and I'm like, this is never gonna end. I'm never gonna run out of stuff, out of videos to make, and that's, you know, exciting in a way, but it's also kind of terrifying. Now we have this, but there is plenty of material for speculation. There's not a lot of material, not a lot of actual information yet. So I don't want anybody to run away with, oh, this is, you know, we have very little. Only the fact that it exists at this point. It has a name, Dragon Ball Super. And I will say I'm kind of surprised, especially given the fact that the 2 new movies have had the Z label in it, despite the fact that Toriyama never made a series called Dragon Ball Z. His series was called Dragon Ball. Just one series from beginning to end. And also given the fact that the Dragon Ball Kai does not have the Z label in it as well in Japan. It's just Dragon Ball Kai, even though it's that same content. But it makes sense when you think about the fact that, you know, it's adhering closer to the manga, that it wouldn't have the Z in there because, you know... So you have Dragon Ball Kai that doesn't have the Z in it. You have the new movies, which are supposedly Toriyama's centered continuation that do have the Z in them. And now you have this new series that doesn't have the Z in it. It's just Dragon Ball Super, kind of like Dragon Ball GT dropped the Z as well. So you have kind of... And also, Yo, Son Goku and his friends return. That was just Dragon Ball. There was no Z in that. So you have so many things. In Dragon Ball Minus, there was no Z in that. So you have kind of a handful of things that have the Z in it, a handful of new things that don't have the Z in it, and there's kind of a consistency to it and kind of not a consistency to it. And so I think there was enough for me to be kind of surprised that they weren't cashing in on the Z again when they have been. Especially if this is a continuation of these movies that are Z. But it doesn't, and I'm kind of surprised, a little bit impressed. I don't really know how I feel. I'm not even sure, honestly. I just got home and just, you know, my first speculation, I'm not even sure if it is Dragon Ball Cho, which is a Japanese word for super, if it actually is Dragon Ball Super. You know, kind of, which is how they say the word super. You know, they actually use the English word super in terms of like Super Saiyajin, you know, things like that. They don't say Cho Saiyajin, it actually is the English word super, or their approximation of it. So I don't know if this is Dragon Ball Cho or literally Dragon Ball Super. So obviously the franchise does have a long association with that word. So it's, but I don't really know how I feel about it as a title. It's okay, I guess, but I'm still kind of reeling. I'm still kind of reeling over this. There's a new series coming out, Dragon Ball Super. I don't know what they can do with it. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but it's apparently going to exist. Obviously, feel free to leave your own speculation and comments below as to what you feel about this new series, what you think, what you want out of this new series, and I guess we'll all just stay tuned and see what happens.